Section 2. Clustering and Scaling Containers. In this section, we're going to cover the prerequisites for creating a Kubernetes cluster in EKS. We're going to be creating and deleting a Kubernetes cluster in EKS. I'm going to show you how to deploy a scalable stateless application to EKS in this case. It's the guestbook application that's included with the Kubernetes distribution. And we're also going to cover how to access your running public-facing application. Prerequisites for creating a Kubernetes cluster in EKS. In this video, we're going to demonstrate creating your Amazon EKS service role in the IAM console, creating your Amazon EKS cluster VPC, and installing and configuring the Cubectl for Amazon EKS. Creating your cluster's IAM role. Before you can create an Amazon EKS cluster, you must create an IAM role that Kubernetes can assume to create AWS resources. For example, when a load balancer is created, Kubernetes assumes the role to create an elastic load balancer in your account. This only needs to be done one time, and it can be used for multiple EKS clusters. You must also create a VPC and a security group for your cluster to use. Although the VPC and security groups can be used for multiple EKS clusters, AWS recommends that you use a separate VPC for each EKS cluster to provide better network isolation. To create your Amazon EKS service role in the IAM console, you open the IAM console at the following address, choose Roles, then Create Role, choose EKS from the list of services, then allow Amazon EKS to manage your clusters on your behalf for your use case. Then click Next Permissions. Then choose Next Review. For role name, enter a unique name for your role, such as EKS service role, then choose Create Role. Creating your cluster's VPC. Open the AWS CloudFormation console at the following address, and then from the navigation bar, select a region that supports Amazon EKS. Then choose Create Stack. For Choose a Template, select Specify an Amazon S3 template URL, and paste the following URL into the text area and choose Next. This is a configuration for an AWS VPC that AWS will create for you. On the Specify Details page, fill out the parameters accordingly and then choose Next. For the stack name, choose a stack name for your AWS CloudFormation stack. For instance, it can be EKS-VPC. Select a VPC block, which you can leave as default. For subnet 01, subnet 02, and subnet 03 blocks, you can leave all as default for now. On the Reviewed page, choose Create, and this will create your VPC. When your stack is created, select it in the console and choose Outputs. Make sure to record the security group's value for the security group that was created, as this is needed to create your EKS cluster. This security group is applied to the cross-account elastic network interfaces, or ENIs, that are created in your subnets that allow the Amazon EKS control plane to communicate with your worker nodes. Record the VPC ID for the subnets that were created, as this is needed to launch your worker node group template. Record the subnet IDs for the subnets that were created, as this is needed to create your EKS cluster. These are the subnets that your worker nodes are launched into. Installing and configuring Cubectl for Amazon EKS. To install Cubectl for Amazon EKS, you have multiple options to download and install the Cubectl for your operating system. The Cubectl binary is available in many operating system package managers such as Homebrew for macOS, and this option is much easier than a manual download and install process. Amazon EKS also vends the Cubectl command line interface binaries that you can use that are identical to the upstream Cubectl binaries with the same version. To install AWS IAM Authenticator for Amazon EKS, Amazon EKS vends AWS IAM Authenticator binaries that you can use, or you can use go-get to fetch the binary from the AWS IAM Authenticator for Kubernetes project on GitHub for other operating systems. Use the command below to download the binary, substituting the correct URL for your platform. The example below is for macOS clients. So let's get started with attempting to deploy and play with our application that lives in our Amazon EKS cluster. So there's a few things that we have to do first. The first thing you need to do is you need to install the Cubectl command line interface. This is the command line interface tool that we use to interact with our cluster on our local machines. So in this case, our cluster, our virtual machines are living in the Amazon cloud, but we need to interact with them on our command line and on our laptops, on our local machines. And we need to connect basically our Cubectl command line tool to this remote AWS cluster, EKS cluster, Kubernetes cluster. So to do that, go ahead and download the Cubectl binaries. And then we're going to change the permissions of the binary. And then we're going to run a command that's going to add that binary to a bin folder that's in your users folder. Basically, we're going to copy the binaries there, and then we're going to create the path. So that way we can use the Cubectl commands from wherever we are in our command line. So I'll demonstrate that here. In my Finder, you'll notice that in the video production is the home folder, and in there is the bin folder that we created, and in there is our Cubectl and AWS IAM Authenticator binaries. So when we ran this command, we basically created that bin folder, and we copied the binaries that were on the desktop to that folder, and then we created the path variable. Okay? And to make sure that we can now use the Cubectl commands, we're just go ahead and type in your terminal Cubectl. It should not say Cubectl command not found, anything like that. It shouldn't say that. It should pop up some help info. The next step is to install the AWS IAM authentication binary, and we're going to follow the similar step as we did above, where we're going to use the curl command to download the binary to our desktop or wherever you like. We're going to change the permissions of that binary, and again we're going to copy that binary to the bin folder that we created above, and we're going to export that path variable so we can use that command. So you should be able to type AWS-IAM-authenticator in your terminal, and it should not pop up command not found. Next, we're going to install the AWS CLI, and there's a couple ways to do this. On a Mac, it's platform dependent on the way you do this, so whether you're doing this on a Mac or Windows or Linux, it's going to be slightly different. On a Mac, you can use pip. You can say pip3 install AWS CLI --upgrade --user. That'll install, or it'll upgrade your already existing installation of the AWS CLI. Or if you find that's giving you trouble, because there could be some underlying dependencies there, if you find that's giving you trouble, the most straightforward way is to simply download the AWS CLI binaries, and you can do that using the curl command here. And you can, so you download the zip file, you unzip the zip file, and then you run the install command there. Okay, so that will get just these three commands here will get the AWS CLI installed for you. And then you have to type in a command. Once the AWS CLI is installed, you'll be able to use this AWS command now. So you should be able to type AWS, and it should not say command not found. Now, one thing you need to do is you need to type in AWS configure, because that's basically like logging you in to your AWS account, but through the command line. And for that, you need the AWS access key ID and secret access key of the user that's creating the cluster. So let me show you something really quickly. Here in the IAM console, you'll see that I have this demo user. So I created a demo user that has limited admin permissions. And that's the user. And when I click on this user, I'm using this ARN. So when I log in, you want to use this ARN. This user has credentials, access keys. The access secret is only available temporarily. So that one you did not see below, but that one I saved for myself. And when you log in, so when you create the user, it's going to give you this access key, and you want to take the access secret key, and that's what you use in the command in the terminal. Here we are in my notes, and you will see that what you want to do is when you type in AWS configure, it's going to prompt you for these things. It's going to prompt you for the access key. It's going to prompt you for the secret access key. And that's where you put the access key and secret access key from the user that's creating the cluster. To summarize, you can configure Kubernetes tools like Cubectl to communicate with your cluster. AWS provides a CloudFormation template that automatically configures your nodes.